This video is part of a playlist in collaboration with a group of different outdoor photographers here on YouTube. Check out the description box below for what everybody's up to all month.
So after meeting up with Tom yesterday, where you saw us come down the trail, we decided we'd go and park further down the glen in the Torridon area. And we were hoping to get into a really nice area of pine forest, but the weather was against us last night. It was really pouring down with rain, howling gales. And we were going to move on today. We're going to go further round to an area called Glen Affric. But the weather started to clear, so we thought we'd hang around a bit. Now we've just, judging by the state of me, it didn't clear up that well. The light's just happening now, and I'm just trying to scout around the area and try and find something. I bushwhacked down into a bit of a gorge, and there's some waterfalls and things like that going on, but there's nothing really standing out. So I'm going to go back up this way, and I think Adam's stopped off by a bridge, and there's a bit of a waterfall there. So I'll go and see what he's shooting there. So yeah, here there's nothing really special about it. There's nothing really standing out, but it's just we're just on top of a bridge, looking down into the water from above here. It's quite a nice scene. There's some nice heather, some nice bracken. The waterfall's a really nice shape actually, it's got quite a lot of water running in it. It's a nice bit of light coming in from above, which I really quite like, but you know, there's nothing really standing out about this shot really, but it's a nice scene. There's no foreground to say, there's nothing that I can put in front of it to make it work any better. It's just a simple shot. I don't know what your camera system's like, but shooting Sony, I tend to find that when I'm shooting waterfalls, I have to underexpose by about a stop, just to get any of those sort of specular highlights and hot spots in the water. It's one of my pet hates when I'm shooting waterfalls. I hate to have those overexposed areas. I like to retain as much detail as I possibly can. So on this, I'm finding at about 1/5 of a second at f8. ISO 50 is working really, really well. The light keeps coming and going, it keeps going darker, but I'm just waiting for it to brighten up above, and it's just a relatively nice scene. So I found a pretty simple shot here. There's some lovely mountain ash or rowan just hanging over the top of the river here. And what I really like about it is the contrast between the black sort of dark peaty waters that are coming down the river and the big splash of colour of the vivid yellows and reds. I think it worked. Now I'm not sure whether I can make the shot work, but I think there's something about the scene that just stood out to me, and I really like it. I think it's just that sort of yin and yang sort of thing that's going on. So you've got a massive splash of colour and then really dark waters, and I'm just trying not a really slow, not a really long exposure, just to try and give the water that little bit of movement below it, just to add a little more interest than just complete black water. But it's definitely got something about it, and I'll work around with it and see what I can come up with. It's one of those shots where you're not entirely sure whether it's going to translate onto an image as well as it looks good in real life, if you know what I mean. But it's one of those things that you don't really know until you stop and give it a try and experiment and see what's going to work for you. So as you can see, that's the sort of foliage I'm concentrating on, that rowan or mountain ash. And then you've got the darker waters below here. And I'm just trying to, as I say, slow the shutter speed down just enough just to give that water a little bit of movement, just to add that little bit of interest. But that contrast between dark and really punchy colour really works for me. While I've been standing in this same spot shooting this rowan that's overhanging the river here, I also noticed on the way past there's a lovely pine tree behind me that's sitting on a rock in the middle of the river. Now it's a great scene, and as I say, I'm not entirely sure whether this one will work either, but I love the way that the water's coming down either side of that rock that it's sitting on, but it's trying to isolate that tree against everything else. And the light's really not in the right place. It's almost over that side, and you might get some side light coming in, which would be quite nice, but really I needed the light behind me over this way to the other side, to try and give myself a little bit of directional light onto the tree, to try and, you know, isolate it almost. I'm going to take a shot anyway, and if we're back here in the next few days or so, I'll maybe come and try again if the light's in a bit better place. Lovely scene here though. You could spend it, like I said in that last video, standing in the same place. If you're turning around all the time, things change and happen around you all the time. So again, always check behind you.
Now in the afternoon it was so wet that I didn't manage to get the vlogging camera out, but we headed down this area down the side of this loch, and it was absolutely stunning, and I actually made a couple of images I really quite liked. Now we met up with Thomas Heaton, and he went round one side of this loch and Adam and I went round the other. And as we were walking along, Mark Littlejohn actually pulled up alongside us and invited us back along for a cup of tea at the house he'd been using for a workshop, which was really kind of him. So I put the tripod out, which the Highland cows that you've just seen actually managed to knock over, but I left it out so Tom would know where we were, and Mark very kindly gave us a lift back to the roadside. This is the image that I was really happy with from that afternoon.
fun, Adam. Smile for the camera, Adam, and say, I'm having a great time.
I'm having a great time. So, Paul, tell us a bit about your experience so far.
Well, if it was anything like last night, man, it was horrible, wasn't it? Absolutely awful.
Why was it awful?
Well, we thought the roof was going to get ripped off at one point.